Hey, welcome back, friends. If you want to join the friends, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. So today we have the patch notes for November 13th, 2017. Uh, Basically, it's a really good patch notes. A lot of stuff has gotten changed, and a lot of stuff that we've been requesting on Reddit for a long time is getting changed. But Reddit is in an uproar because they totally screwed up somewhere. There's a lot of bugs with this update, or two major ones, and I want to talk about those first. So first things first is going to be a PSA, a public service announcement to turning off the permanent gold accumulator on the tool belt means no GP. If you don't already know, the permanent gold accumulator, I think it costs 1.25 million Dungeoneering tokens, so it's a very expensive thing. But if you add it to your tool belt, that means that you can never get the appropriate amount of gold. They are currently working on a hotfix for it right now, and it should be coming out within the next couple of days here. But if you turn off the permanent gold accumulator, you no longer get gold, essentially. So yeah, just always leave it on. You only get 90% of the gold that you actually get. For right now, I would just say do not add it to your tool belt, and then when you want it, bring it with you. When you don't want it, don't bring it with you, and you can get the full 100% of your gold. The second problem is the Luck of the Dwarves ring is not working as intended. Basically, let's go ahead and go back to this. Add to the comments. I believe they put a comment in it. But basically, the Luck of the Dwarves ring is working too well now. And you can see from Mod Cuppa here, it's a bug currently being fixed, working on or likely involve a hotfix of some form. I would like to see them just immediately make it so the Luck of the Dwarves does not work at all. Basically, just shut off Luck of the Dwarves until this gets fixed, because this is insane. If you look at this, all these drops, look at Bloodsmith here. 1, 2, where is he? 3. I saw 5 of them. There's 4 right here and 5. And if you look at the timestamps, it's all within just over an hour. He got 5 drops from Nex within an hour. I have a feeling that's not intended mechanic to be getting that many drops. I don't know exactly what the drop rate is. I know that you can kill Nex pretty fast. As you can see, he got a 3.5 minute kill right here. So over the course of an hour, he probably killed it probably 20 times or so. Let's say he could get 3-minute kills pretty consistently. If you kill it 20 times, you get 5 drops. That seems like an unintended mechanic. He may have just gotten really lucky, and it may just be like a 1 in 15 or 1 in 10 drop instead of the intended 1/16. But this seems like there's a lot too many drops within an hour. Somebody received a Hazelmere Signet ring as well during this time. A lot of people getting Torva Pernix, so a lot of people all think that it's a high or better chance to get dropped, and the Ragefire glands are going to be slightly, very slightly off kilter, what you would expect, because they actually are more common now. But I believe the Luck of the Dwarves is also just working a little bit too well. So we'll have to go ahead and see what they do with that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the patch notes, because there is a lot of good stuff in this update. It's just getting spoiled a little bit by those 2 major bugs. Basically, I don't know if anybody else is calling it yet, but what I'm calling it is basically Ring of Wealth version 2, because like 5 years ago, basically the exact same thing happened, is Ring of Wealth stacked with a group of people, so you get basically the Ring of Wealth effect on, I think a lot of people use it on Corporeal Beast, because that was the most common or the most expensive drop back then. If you got like 60 people all around the Corporeal Beast, it was like almost 100% chance of dropping a sigil every single time. So basically this is the exact same thing. It's just not working as intended. They're getting too much of a drop, and they actually did a rollback for that. I don't know if they're planning on doing a rollback for this. I doubt they are at this point if they haven't already done one. But it does seem like people are getting too many drops and people are abusing this, which is kind of annoying to me, because I do have a series going that I'm trying to get every single boss drop, and people are going to be getting the titles just cheaply because basically they're abusing this Ring of or the Luck of the Dwarves. Right now, I'm gonna just not use it at all, so I don't ever get accused of bug abuse. But we're supposed to be on the patch notes right now. So basically, the first patch note is that you can now hover over items and it tells you how degraded they are. There's a long list if you'd like to go ahead and pause this video. Basically, every single thing that degrades, or the majority of things that degrade anyhow, I'll tell you the degradation level. All of this is basically just degrading stuff. That's all equipment up there. Scrimshaws and Godbooks also do the exact same thing. Urns tell you how full they are. Gem bags tell you how many gems are in them just by hovering over them. So very nice. Frozen keys also hovering over. Spring cleaner, rune pouch, quiver, ectoplasmator, blood essence, coal bag, silver boots. Essentially, I think it was just a tap from one of the mods. I'll have to look through it later on, but one of the mods did a lot of work, and we're getting the benefits of all that this week. Putting all the hover overs all in one go. They also have warning messages that you can filter out when a degraded item hits 5% charge whenever you equip something that has less than 5% charge. That way you don't go to a boss and expect to be killing it, and all of a sudden you have a weapon seed in your hand instead of a attuned crystal bow or something. I may have done that at Araxor once. So the idea is that you don't have that happen ever. Ring of Death, basically when it hits 20%, because you do lose 15% whenever you die, so it's essentially saying when you're at 5% plus the 15% you need for if you die. All of these as well. The tooltip gives you the passive effect. It just tells you what the passive effect is for all of these items. A couple of the note ones are the Asylum Surgeon's Ring, the Amulet of Souls, Reaper Necklace, Ring of Death. Not really a buff, but it is useful for people that don't already know what these items do and don't want to look at the wiki. So it's kind of useful, but not essential to the game, but nice quality of life update. Tokozo Ring now displays the number of charges remaining on its tooltip. You shouldn't really be using these much anyway, but it's on there now. One thing that I noticed, it says Brawling Gloves now show the amount of XP remaining on their tooltip. As far as I was aware, the Brawling Gloves, the way they work is they basically just have a number of times that you can use them. So you want to have the highest XP drops ever. Like, you want the biggest XP drop possible to get the most XP out of Brawling Gloves. The way they put that sounds like the Brawling Gloves now have a set amount of XP. Unfortunately, I don't have any in my bank to test out. But if they change that, like, as a hidden update, that's a big change to the Brawling Gloves that they obviously didn't mention. I didn't ever see the mentioned. But that's a big change, and people may uproar if they did that just as a quiet update. Pulse cores now displayed XP remaining on the tooltip. Rest of it, again, just a lot of tooltip stuff. The Divine-O-Matic is actually a pretty nice one. It tells you how many energies you have filled up in it, so you can tell when you're getting low instead of just having to withdraw randomly and hoping that you have the right amount, or either that or right-clicking to check it. But all of these essentially are just tooltip additions, all really nice. Go ahead and pause the video whenever you want to see specifics. Several graphical issues on the Animal Magnetism quest cutscene has been fixed. Old quest had some bugs, they fixed it. Big one, Dungeoneering map can now be separated on its own HUD, and it stays open if you're going from floor to floor. So really nice. They basically made the Dungeoneering map a lot more usable instead of having to reopen it every single time. I plan on having it always open now, and probably moving it a little bit less out of the way or a little bit more out of the way than it used to be. It was really far in the middle of my screen on a smaller screen. So it'd be nice to move it more towards the corner instead of actually having it right smack dab in the middle of everything. A couple of other updates. They were actually pretty nice updates as well in the middle of this. Basically, cleavability cannot be used by Revolution when the action slot 6 has been queued up. Basically just a Revolution ++ benefit. They did a couple changes to Revolution ++ here. Can now choose whether or not Revolution activates basic thresholds or ultimate abilities in the combat setting interface. I saw this on Reddit, and it's a really nice idea. I haven't seen the interface yet, but basically you can toggle it so that it uses Revolution Plus Plus like it used to. You can make it so that Revolution only does basics and ultimates and does not do thresholds, or you can have it do all three. If you don't plan on using any ultimates, you can just have it use basic and thresholds, and then you can time your ultimates. It's really nice to have that versatility in it. That way people can use it like old Revolution, or they can use it like the new Revolution, which I personally like it better. I probably am going to turn off ultimate abilities just so that I can throw one on my bar and then use it whenever I think it's actually useful, instead of just having it happen all the time. But really nice update. I love that they did this. I was just a Reddit comment on Monday last week, and they already got it into the game. So they're definitely listening to their players. Now, if they could just stop getting those bugs in the game, that would be nice. Natural Pet House now correctly displays that I can store 30 pets. That was an update from last week, and it didn't actually work, and it wasn't the way it was supposed to work. So they also did a hotfix to make it so that it could store 30 pets instead of just the 25. Players can no longer access the customization interface via the summoning icon in the wilderness safe area, assuming that was just some sort of bug or something. The rest of these are basically not too much going on. Most of the times everything would work as intended, but they're just basically bug fixes in really, really rare situations. One thing to note though, the last thing they put on there, the Gloves of Passage drop rate has been increased to 1 in 500 instead of 1 in 2,000. When they released that on the boss drop rates revealed, it was really surprising to see that they were 1 out of 2,000. It makes no sense for them to be that rare. So the fact that they've quadrupled the chance of them getting dropped means that the prices are probably going to tank a little bit. But honestly, not too many of them are in the game. Not many people use them. So I would imagine that they're just doing this so that they can actually get some gloves into the game, because not as many people are killing the Magister as they were on launch. So if you wanted any gloves coming into the game, you probably need to decrease the drop rate, or increase the drop rate, decrease how rare it is. A couple hot fixes did happen throughout the week. Basically, they're just bug fixes. A couple ninja fixes that were pretty nice. The permanent gold accumulator has been added to the Daemonheim reward shop. I believe it was for 1 in a million, or 1 in a quarter million tokens. So it's an end game kind of thing. You don't buy it when you're a low level or anything like that. That's, let me think, 13 mil experience. So basically it's the entire 99 worth of tokens if you don't do any dailies or any sinkholes. So yeah, this is an end game kind of thing. Definitely not something that everybody's going to be using. Mining, woodcutting, and smithing resource generation in Dungeoneering on Free Worlds is now capped at tier 6. It used to be tier 5, so essentially you can now make slightly stronger stuff. You could probably make weapons that are slightly stronger as well. I'm sure they used to be able to get them from bosses, but now you can actually make tier 6 yourself. Hides and Dungeoneering are now stackable. Why are these not stackable in the first place? Everything else was stackable like 2 years ago. They should have had them stackable a long time ago. Cooldown for signs or portents of life are death, and the defense skill cape now continue while logged out. This is a thing they've been asking for months on the Reddit, and they do finally get this in the game. I know it was something that was a little bit harder to implement than they were initially intending, and it probably went back to Q&A a couple of times, and QA did their job and found some bugs with it, but now it is working as intended. And I know that they were talking about potentially making it so that you would never have them on cooldown as a quest reward potentially in the future. I don't expect to see that anytime soon, but it would be kind of nice to have in the future that you could reduce the cooldown of the Sign of Life just so that you can get back to PvMing a little bit faster. Acadia logs can now be crafted into arrow shafts. Why they weren't in the first place, I don't know. I know that they can be used for, I think it's only fire making and not fletching at all. So that's why these are being used for fletching now. They want some sort of use for these Acadia logs because they were getting really low in price. They were actually getting more efficient to disassemble these than maple logs. I actually have a decent amount of them in my bank, so I'm going to check out the prices, see if I can sell those for a little bit of a profit, or if they just are basically sitting where they were before. Uh, I forgot to look through all of this. Oh, this was a big one. The players can now augment the Wilderness Sword 4. So that means that you can have your Wilderness Sword 4 with a mobile perk or any other perk that you want that's going to give you a little bit of a benefit when trying to not get PK'd. So I'm probably going to do this once I actually get the Wilderness Sword. I haven't done that yet. I probably should have. But when I do, I'll probably augment it and put mobile on it. Prawn balls are once again able to be opened rapidly clicking on them. Basically, they changed it so that it was a slower way of opening up the prawn balls, but you don't have to be constantly clicking. But you can only do one per game tech. You used to be able to do like 4 or 5 depending on how fast you could click. So I'm hoping that you are able to do that again. I can't guarantee it, but I'm hoping that you could get up to the 4 or 5 per tick and get it done a lot faster. I'm assuming that you still have the option to just do it AFK as well. There is now a pray at option in the Kadarn altar in Prifindis. I don't see why it didn't have a pray at option. I think that was just basically whenever you're switching prayer books, you'd have to basically go through the option to switch your prayer book and say, no, I don't want to, instead of just praying at it. I don't know why that wasn't the default option anyway. Gobi supply runs and daily rune sphere is now on the D&D tracker. Pretty nice. Not necessary, but glad to have it. Wilderness restrictions have been added to the Edgeville dungeon entrance to the wilderness. I'm assuming there's some sort of wilderness restriction to get into the wilderness. I don't know if it actually matters or not, but I'm assuming it's there and hoping that it doesn't really screw over any of the free-to-play players. Sorry about my phone, by the way. A bank all option has been added to the Barrows loot interface. That's a pretty big one as well. I don't know. It's just making it more in line with all the other new bosses. I don't know if QBD actually has that option. I think it does. So since Queen Black Dragon, they've been doing that with all the new bosses that have a loot interface. So it's pretty nice to have a bank all option. So this is the update that actually messed everything up. Luck rings and items now state which items you received and inform the player that the item shone brightly. So they screwed something up with luck rings and made it way too common to get the drops. And also said that luck messages now display at Angel of Death, God Wars Dungeon 2, and other areas. As far as I was aware, I didn't think God Wars Dungeon 2 they worked at all at God Wars Dungeon 2, but I may be incorrect there, and it may just not have been displaying correctly, and that might be why people thought that it wasn't working. But I was unaware that it even worked there. Tier 90 boot component drops from the rune dragons and elite rune dragons are now more common. That's what I was talking about before, that you saw quite a few rune dragon tier 90 boot component drops on that drop list when I started the video. I was talking about this, that they're actually now more common, so I'm sure a lot of people were going there to see how common they were and to see if it was worth killing them. So the fact that there's a lot of tier 90 boot component drops on there is not unexpected. Araxi will now generate loot drops when clicking on her corpse instead of when she dies to bring her in line with other bosses. That means that you can now do a Luck of the Dwarves switch. I don't think it was worth it before because you would have to switch it before you actually killed her, otherwise it wouldn't work at all. It's probably now worth actually having a combat ring and then switching to Luck of the Dwarves when you're about to loot her. So it's pretty nice that they basically made it consistent. And the last thing that was actually important is XP rewards for a couple of quests are now given in the form of lamps. You can look at the quest yourselves. But I believe I saw on the Reddit that it's now possible to have a 1 defense pure that has curses, and it didn't used to be, so that'll be pretty nice for some PvPers to have a couple of other quests that you can actually do without ruining a PvP account. Completely irrelevant if you're a main account to have XP lamps, but whatever, it's nice for the people that want it, and it doesn't really bother me at all. I had to click 1 extra time, so not a big deal. But that was the patch notes. As you could tell, there was a lot here. That's why I actually decided to do the patch notes for today instead of just skipping over them like most weeks. And also, I wanted to talk about the couple of bugs that happened because of them. If you do all enjoy this, I do plan on doing patch notes whenever they are kind of more interesting than the average patch notes. I do look at them every single week, but most of them are not worth mentioning. If you do like it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. See all my future content. Leave a like and a comment. As always, though, have a good one.